So, so the question that Jen just asked, and hi, Michael, nice to have you here. Welcome. Jennifer Galhouse is director of tennis at East Chop, and Sean, you're over there in Atlanta, down there or up there from here, up there in Atlanta. And he's an HOA homeowners association specialist. Michael, welcome. All I was going to say is when you're high. So the podcast that was released today is the 5 mistakes the search committee makes, right? And one of those I think is very similar to when we're hiring staff, whether it's a golf pro or a tennis pro or food and beverage director, is we get to, like, when I'm doing an interview with someone, I get blinders on. I need to stop talking and listen more to them, because I think what happens is I try to describe the job and I try to describe the vibe of the club, whether it's a destination club or whether it's a year-round club versus seasonal club, or whether it's a club that is, focused on golf versus tennis, or yachting versus tennis, or paddle. And no, they need to, the candidate needs to do their research for that. And I need to listen to them more. Don't you think? I mean, Jen, where do you make the mistake? I said that in the search committee.
Yeah.
I said the search committee gets like one person and it gets blinders.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Jen?
I do the same thing, actually. And when I used to be a college coach, and I caught myself doing that a lot, where, I'm recruiting and I'm doing all the talking. And it's almost because, you feel that the other person might be a little bit nervous. So maybe there's some awkward, quiet times, and you feel like you need to fill those. But I feel like maybe it's best to put the pressure a little bit more on the candidate to sell themselves.
Yeah.
And
really seriously going to
express
think a
their
tennis
interest.
pro can't fill dead air?
I'm sorry?
Are we seriously going to think a potential tennis coach can't fill dead air? Like,
I've
had it. Yeah.
That's a great point. And Sean, that goes across golf too. Golf pro, you think about a golf lesson, you got to talk, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're right next to the person. You're not across the net. Although I love ball machine lessons where I'm on the same side as my client. But golf pros have to talk just as much.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do the same thing. And that's such a good point that you brought up, because I've caught myself doing that way too many times.
Well, you're just a chatter, you're a chatterbox.
I am, but yeah, you need to talk.
So the 5 mistakes, I think the one is that we get blinders on while we're talking, right? Mm-hmm. So we talk about the job, we try to give the vibe of the club, and that's something that the search committee does too. But Sean, as we were saying, the search committee also makes mistakes in not understanding the job role. And Jen, I'm going to say sometimes I do it, and I bet you do it too. You talk through the job, so you better understand the job role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I find myself doing that. Sean, when was the last time you had to hire an assistant?
We're in a slightly different, I'd say, all right, we're in a very different world. Okay. Last time I hired an assistant, she is 14 years old. And it's great because they have no bad habits. They don't have any habits at all is the problem. They also have no training. So we have our own little internal certification system where we train them specifically for what we do. The best part about it is they're $20 an hour coaches. They can be assistants, which is great, but they don't need to have as much. At some point, I'm really not qualified right now because I haven't hired a real tennis coach other than somebody that I knew on a referral. And after 4 years of trying to train her to show up on time and be nice to the kids, I had to let her go.
Yeah.
Right.
I think referrals are huge. And I've been guilty of it sometimes too, where, and search committees do the same thing, where you are so impressed by somebody's playing background that it makes you kind of want them a little bit more.
I'm on a Zoom call.
But then, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good coach, that they're good with kids, that they're good with beginners, which is what we deal with a lot. So I think we need to, consider the fact that they're a good player, but look at the bigger picture and consider their personality and, how they will do with the clientele that you work with. So
That's that what you just said, Jennifer, is really true, is the clientele with which we work, right? So Sean's got one clientele and it's kids. So he's hiring 14-year-olds. Jen's got a clientele that is extremely destination wise club from New York and Boston, high net worth. I've got a club that is 50-50 of that same kind of situation, just not quite as a transient, I would say. More 40% of my people live year round in the area. But how do you, and here's the other thing. I don't want to hire just for 1 year because I hate going through this every year. I want to hire somebody for 3 years, 4 years, at least 3, and those are the things I look at. So I'm looking at, does this person want to settle down? I've made a mistake. I've made mistakes in hiring. I see somebody that I think is going to be a great pro, and they are, but then I lose them in a year, and they move on. They're like, oh, I'm going to go back into, I don't know, whatever they go into, youth hosteleries or whatever it is.
And are you hiring mostly part-time? Is that what we're talking about?
We hire Jen and I.
Places, right?
So for my
seasonal, full-time, but seasonal.
Full-time. But so Jen and I, totally very similar clubs. We hire from like May or June through August, and it's full-time. I mean, it's 7 days a week. It's a grind. But
that's full-time, but for only a few months. Like, what am I going to do the rest of the time? How can you help me pay my bills the rest of the time? At some point, that's in my world. I just picture that as part-time. Like, you're gonna hire me for a few months. What do I do the rest of the time?
So there was this question on a Facebook page, and it was directed to me. I don't know if you saw it, Jennifer, saying, "Hey, Ed Shanfy knows these guys that go up and back." There's thousands of us, like Jen, like me. We go back and forth, back and forth. So we have a winter job and we have a summer job, and we have shoulder seasons off. So in the summer, we're cranking, and Jen works really hard in the summer, as do I. And then come October, we twiddle our thumbs. I get to do a little more podcasts and put them in the bank. And then come November, Thanksgiving time, we're back on the court. Jen's a slightly different from me. I think, Jen, you work at a club that's kind of less seasonal than mine. Mine here in Vero is, December, then it drops down for January, and then January 15th, right about now, it's cranking. That's why I'm still in my whites. And it cranks till like Easter, and then it dies, and everyone goes back up north, and I follow them in a month, and in May I go up there.
There's clubs, Sean, there's clubs in here, at least in Florida, and I would think South Carolina, even Georgia, that are seasonal in the winter. So in the summer, they're just totally dead. But back to your point of, how can I make money the rest of the year? What people don't understand is that these summer positions offer a huge earning potential. Basically, you can make what you would make here in a year, you can make it in the summer in 3 months, and people don't understand that. So, there's the inconvenience of like having to leave home, and it is a grind, it is tough, but what you can make up there in the summer is way more than what you could potentially make, at least here in Florida. So a lot of pros are missing out on those opportunities. For some reason, they're not seeing it that way. And that's what I don't follow that,
Well,
I don't understand that.
Yeah. And thank you. Now I have a better idea of what that world looks like. Because if you'd have said to me, hey, Sean, you're making, I'm gonna pick a number, 75 at your country club in Atlanta, back, call it 20 years ago when I was there, and you're gonna say, come up here, you can make another 75 the 3 months that you're visiting here, I lose my job in Atlanta. Like there's a 12-month job that in how I view tennis is I hire somebody and it's a 12-month job. It's just one of those scenarios where there's no way you can throw all the money at me that you want. Kind of. I mean, obviously everybody's got their number. Give me a big enough number and I'll lose my job in Atlanta for it. But at some level, it's okay. I'm working in the country club, and this isn't me now. But if you'd have called me when I was 25 and said, come up here for 3 months, you can make the same money, I'd have to give up my job in Atlanta. There's no way they'd let me come. There's no seasonal nature here.
That's the leap of faith. A lot of, you nailed it in one. And Jen, I think you understand this too. That's the leap of faith that a lot of pros won't take, because they're going to have to go find a job in Atlanta that's seasonal. So here's the thing, right? So perfect example is I'm involved in it right now. And I probably won't post this because it's just the three of us, but or I'll edit it out. But the club where I'm working right now is looking for a year. They're looking for a director. My director is retiring at the end of the year, and I'm number 2, and I've been there 3 years, and everyone wants me. They love me. I'm not trying to be boastful. They're like, Ed, you got to apply. I said, yeah, but it's a year-round position. Doesn't matter. Apply. So I applied. I put my name in, and I actually have a wonderful friend of mine who's been a director on the Vineyard and been a director down in Florida. And I said, he can stay through the summer. And they're like, nope, we need you year-round. So the members today came to me, and that's why I'm a little late today. They said, hey, Ed, what gives? Give up the job in the summer. I'm like, you guys don't get it. You can't pay me enough to stay here year round and equal what I make up in the summer. So,
Right.
you know, I'm up there a little longer than Jen. Okay. My job's a little more, as I said, it's a little 50% of my club, or 40% is there year round. So I got to get up there May 15th, and I got to stay till September 25th. But what I make in those 4.5 months, if I stayed here year round, I'm dropping down to 2/3 of what I make. 2/3. And I'm not gonna take a year round position and take a 33% pay cut.
It's
Right.
basically like, would you rather work really hard for 3 months or 4 months, or work year round to make less or the same? You know, that's the part that I think a lot of pros are missing out on.
Are you guys married?
Looking at it like that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Jen
Oh.
and I are totally married. We're a couple. We're lovely.
Not
I
together.
thought you were asking if we were married to each other. I was like, what?
That's what I thought.
Are either or both of you married?
We're both
Yeah, I
married.
am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How does
And
that
I have
work?
and I have a 12-year-old, and it's been really hard, Sean. It's been really hard.
Because
Yeah,
that's
I'm
my
gone.
that's the personal question, and thank you for allowing me to just throw that in there, because that's
Oh, we're
that's
talking.
not just business. If I got to go to my wife and be like, all right, I'm going to be gone May to September. There's no I'm gone May to, like, she's going with me. Like, that's just how it works
Yeah.
in my with my marriage. So, and I like that. That's a good thing. But what does that do? That back and forth, that can't be easy.
Well,
Yeah, it's not, especially at the beginning, you know, and it depends on the club too. A lot of some clubs will be able to find housing for you and your family. Some won't. Depends on your position too.
Because in
So
that case, you could double my income, but you just doubled my expenses, because I'm still paying my mortgage in Atlanta, right?
you get free
you
housing.
are, but
There's no expenses. You get free housing.
Yeah.
over there. Not free.
Really?
get free housing.
Yeah, they pay for your housing.
Keep
And-
talking.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean,
okay.
my housing's subsidized. Okay. I have a really nice place, and the club subsidizes my place. And now what's going on is they've this is a whole other thing. They've thrown the housing onto me. So I'm doing all the housing for everybody, and it's all subsidized. So if you came and worked for me, Sean, I'd charge you $125 a week to have a nice place to stay. You'd have a place for your family. $125 is basically an hour and a half of work up there. So in an hour and a half, you just paid your week's mortgage. If you want to put it that way.
Sure.
But here's the other point, and it is tough. But I think there are people, and Sean, my situation, and I'll be personally honest, is that my wife and I met in London, and we were young, and I was in an ad agency. She was the head of a PR agency. We were flying all over. She was going to Madrid. I was going to Australia. She's going to Frankfurt. I'm going to US. And so when 10, 11, 12 years ago now, we were in Vero, we had just had our daughter. She got a job offer in Vero full time. She has a great job. She's still at it. And I got the Edgartown Yacht Club job on the Vineyard. And the same week we looked at each other and said, well, we've been here before. And it makes a big difference too. Edgartown is 10 weeks. I mean, I could have done it in 9, right? Like Jen's assistant can be there for probably 8 weeks and get away with 8 to 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Now I'm at 15, but now Sophie's so much more senior in her job. And with COVID, she can come up for 6 to 7 weeks. And Olivia now at 12, when she was 2, it was a nightmare. And thank God my wife is a wonderful woman. But now Olivia could fly up on her own, hang out with me for 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the summer, and then fly back. You know what I'm saying? So your life, as you just said, Sean, your life goes through ups and downs. It's easier, it's harder. Now it's pretty simple. Olivia's like, when are we going north, Dad? You know, and she's rubbing her hands, and Soph's looking, going, okay, I got the cats for 2 months. But then she comes up now. It's tough. It's easier for kids who are like, just out of college and they're
Yeah.
looking at what they want to do, and then maybe they get involved in this seasonal thing. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of us that go back and forth. A lot. People don't realize how many.
Yeah. And they're really good opportunities. Like when I was a pro at a club in the Hamptons for 7 years. And I had to live in a house with a bunch of pros. It was like being in a frat house, basically. Like, I got my own room and everything, but yeah, I could only do that for so long, I guess. But, my husband at the time worked here in Florida, and he would only come up for 2-3 weeks, if that, in the summer that we would see each other. So that part was hard. And, we don't have kids, but if we had kids, that would add another level of difficulty there. But now we've kind of figured things out. He works from home, so he's able to come up with me, and we spend the summer up there. So, and now I get my own place. I don't have to share.
Is Ryan coming up the whole summer this year? Is he going to be up there the whole time?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
He was there
awesome.
the whole summer, the last 2 summers.
So Sean, Ryan, Jen's husband, is a really good tennis player in his own right, but he is a wonderful computer software consultant. And he actually was Jen's GM 2 years ago. And they took it on as a team. And that's the fun kind of thing. And then he went back to his business after the summer, but he kind of helped her the first summer. And that also is important, is, how your family supports you. Like, so my wife is half owner of everything I do, half owner of Beyond the Baselines, SBW. And like, she's, tonight she's going to be doing a PowerPoint, because I stink at PowerPoint, but she's doing a PowerPoint presentation. We're pitching to another club. So, if you have someone that has that kind of support, and I'm sure your wife does too, but it all depends on your time of life and your kids and your families. And we looked at each other 12 years ago, and I said, so if you can't stop me, I'll go, but do you want me to go? And she said, no, you go. We've been here before. You used to travel. I used to travel. So we tried it. We did for 4 months, and we're still doing it. It's 12 years in now.
Ed, say the truth. She's probably like, get out of here, please. Leave me alone for 3 months.
No, she gets sad when I leave.
I'm just joking.
But now with Olivia, her age, Olivia, Jen and my wife are good friends. We've known each other 3 years, 4 years now, right? 4 years, 3 years, something like that. Olivia being our age, at the age of 12, 13 now, and loving tennis, it's so simple. Back when Olivia was 2, I felt horrible leaving. I was gone for, and the vineyard, as is tough. The housing is tough, so you can't get great housing. It's expensive to get your family there. Soph and Olivia couldn't come for the whole year, the whole summer. So it was back and forth, and it was like costing me those were tough years. Now, and also I'm a director, I can get up and just say, hey guys, you got it. I'm going to see my wife, kind of thing. Yeah. It's a little different.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of pros are missing out on these opportunities, maybe because they don't fully understand it. I don't know. Or it's just not interesting to them. It's not something that they want to do.
Yeah, I definitely didn't understand it. It's just a completely different concept from what goes on here in the Atlanta area. Yeah. So I think about it and I go, okay, well, I could get out of here end of May to maybe September 1st before we'd have to get back into doing stuff. So I could be down there. I could be down there or up somewhere. I could be somewhere else for 3 months and get away with it and still keep the business that I run here.
You could do it then. You only need, you could go work for Jen for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
In Florida?
No, in the summer.
Oh, okay. Going north. I was going to say, I'm not going to Florida. That's
no. If you can get June 1st to August 15th, or June 10th to August 15th off, you're golden. You could go up there and work in Maine, Vermont, anywhere in New England. Their season is 10 weeks for a head pro or an assistant pro. For the director, it's a little longer. Yeah. But you could go up there and crank at I
Well,
won't say.
nobody's going to hire me as a director up there because I don't know what I'm doing in that area of the world. But yeah, I can. That'd be fun. That's a thing I would potentially consider. Be like, hey, honey, we're going north for a few weeks. I'm going to see if I can still teach 8 hours a day for 14 days straight.
Yeah, see how your knees do.
Exactly.
Exactly. And go ahead.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything. Sean, were you gonna say
Oh.
something?
Oh, sorry, I was kicking myself back out. I hit the mute button late.
Oh, there you do. You just did it. All I can say is let's bring it back to the elephant in the room, as Jen called it last week. Novak's out of the Australian, and now Novak is apparently out of the French. I told you, Jen, I said he wouldn't be playing. You didn't believe me.
Yeah, I certainly didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, Australia is tough, and I
They
think
keep going back and forth.
I think France may bend, but now the president of France is involved apparently, and he said no. If everyone has to be vaccinated inside the arena, that includes the players.
Yeah, I think some countries are going to start just requiring vaccination. I see both sides of it. I see the side of people when they say, you should be able to make the decision for yourself and your body. And like, I get it. If he doesn't want to take the vaccine for whatever reason, that's on him, but to me, it's like, you got to respect a country's stance on whatever law or issue they might have, like to me, I think he was trying to play the system. That's what I didn't like, he was trying to play the system and be tricky. And I think the people lost trust in him, Go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna say, you got himself in trouble for talking trash on Twitter, right? I mean, he just that's a fun way where I was like, oh my gosh, he's totally gonna be kicked out, so to speak, because you can't pick that fight against a government who's gonna say, oh, we were just gonna use you as an example. Now we just actually don't like you, so we're going one step further.
Mm-hmm.
The Prime Minister of Australia said he may waive the 3-year deportation. I mean, that's unbelievable. If Djokovic cannot go back to Australia for 3 years, that's gonna hurt. Here's the other thing, and I don't know if this is a fake story, if it's fake news, or if it's an allegation. But there was something on Twitter that I saw, and I didn't have. You go through Twitter, that said that Novak owns 80% of a biomed company that is working with anti-vax medicines against COVID. So it could be that he has this principle not because of health, but because of business. Has anyone else seen that? Have you seen that?
I haven't heard about that, but it could be both. You just never know.
You never know. No sources on that. I just saw it on Twitter, and I can't believe everything I read on Twitter. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can't. And so I did this thing with my club where we do the ESPN Pick'em challenge. So, it's like a series of questions and you make predictions on results on different things, for the Grand Slams. And that's really fun. But it kind of messed up my bracket because they didn't, it wasn't a disqualification or like, it wasn't a bye for the person that he was supposed to play. They put in a lucky loser.
Yeah.
So we were all counting that, okay, Novak's going to be out, but they put a lucky loser and it screwed everybody up.
All right. So I got to leave, but I'm going to ask you one question to both of you. And my daughter, Olivia, who's a wonderful tennis player, and I are having a discussion, a heated discussion. And the heated discussion revolves around Leylah Fernandez and Emma Raducanu. And my say, and she totally disagrees with me because they're the closest in age to her, is that they're not going to make waves in the tour. I mean, they're going to be there. They're going to be top 75, top 100, but that they won the US Open because it was the year of COVID. People hadn't been able to travel, hadn't been able to practice correctly. Not a lot of people were at the tournament. And here we are, and we've been talking about this, and here we are. Fernandez lost first round. Raducanu lost last night or 2 nights ago, second round. to an unknown. I mean, I think it may be a qualifier. But what are your thoughts on that? Jen, you first, because you're in touch with these people. You got it.
Oh, I just think in general, women's tennis is all over the place. There's no consistent winner. You know, there's no dominant player anymore. You know, it's an open field for all the players. You know, Serena used to be that player, and she's getting older, and she's not considered the top dog anymore either, you know? So it's really anybody's game. I think it almost depends on which country you're playing in, you know, like Ash Barty is going to do amazing in Australia. The Americans are going to do great at the US Open, you know, but because they have that crowd support, but yeah, it's just all over the place. Who knows? I think they both have the game. It's just, you know, now Raducanu she's so famous and she's making all this money, and who knows? I might distract her. Who knows? Or it might drive her more. It's like,
Well, if she keeps losing, that money dries up pretty quick.
yeah, she'll be okay.
Oh, she'll be fine, but it dries up pretty quickly. People forget that those, 1 year sponsorships, 2 year sponsorships. Sean,
Yeah.
what do you think? Sean, you watching women's tennis?
I do not.
Okay, good. On that note, I have to leave because I have to go back and hire somebody for the summer for that 8-week job, Sean.
Call me.
Okay.
I didn't get a flat out no from my wife when I brought it up just now.
Well, there you go. Something to consider.
I'm gonna listen.
We're gonna look at it. So seriously, like hang up and call me. Let's talk about it because
All right.
I'm interested in at least what it is.
We'll talk.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you. Have a
Take
good
care,
one,
guys.
guys.
Bye.